How are you? Nice to see you.
Nice to see you too. Take a seat.
Thank you.
Home Secretary, the Prime Minister said yesterday in language that some in your party find quite troublesome that the UK risks becoming an island of strangers. Are you comfortable repeating that phrase back to me now?
Well, the whole point of what the Prime Minister's saying is that people have come to this country for many generations to be part of working in our NHS, working in many jobs across the country. That's really important. But we also need immigration to be controlled and managed, and we also need people to be able to integrate, people to be able to speak English. And that's why the Prime Minister is completely right to say people do need to be able to speak English. We are increasing those English language standards.
Are they strangers, those people then? We're talking about immigrants. Are they strangers?
Well, the whole point is that we don't want that to be the case. The whole point is that we want people to be able to speak English to each other. If you need to be able to talk to people in the town centre, in a shop, and not feel isolated, not end up at risk of exploitation. So, for example, we are bringing in English language standards for the first time for people who come as the partner of someone who's got a work visa, maybe brings a wife or a husband. Up until now, those partners have never had to speak English before in order to come to this country. Actually, we think they should be able to speak English, and that's the point that the Prime Minister's making. This is hugely important, that everyone can be part of the country if you're coming to live and to work here, that you can be part of local communities.
So when you're in your constituency, do you feel as though there are strangers around you, more strangers than there used to be?
I think everybody wants to be working together and part of the same community. That's
so
really
important. Do you feel
important.
there are strangers in your community?
No, because I think what we've had is this big increase in overseas recruitment, which has ended up being undermining skills and training. Employers are ending up recruiting from overseas rather than training and
but
doing
you just
skills.
said to me, no, you don't feel as though there are strangers in your community. Is
no,
that what
I think
you just said
people
to me?
want to be part of the same community and want to be able to be working together, be living together, but we've also got to make sure that immigration is properly controlled and managed.
It just doesn't sound as though you're massively comfortable with that rhetoric.
Well, I think this is really just getting things topsy-turvy. What we're doing is we're setting out some very serious policies and we're explaining why this really matters, why it really matters to have English language, why it really matters to have integration, why it also matters, something else the Prime Minister was saying yesterday, to have rules that are being respected and enforced, and why it crucially also matters. Here we are today in Bentley talking to some of the apprentices. Here, why it also matters to have the skills and training in the UK. So we're setting out these really big policy changes. I think that is fundamental, and I think that's something that really should feel like common sense to people, that the system needs to be controlled and managed, that we support skills here in the UK.
When it comes to immigration, what is the difference now between the Labour Party and Reform UK?
Well, we're setting out practical plans which are about investing in skills and in training. It's about recognising that for generations people have been part of coming to work in all of our different public services, jobs, the NHS in particular, and in our armed forces as well. But immigration needs to be controlled and managed. And we're setting out practical ways to do that also support the economy. So crucially, that investment in skills and training, I don't hear any other party talking about that. I don't hear any other party talking about why we have a positive approach which links the immigration system with skills and training. Net migration quadrupled in the space of just 4 years. Overseas recruitment massively increased. And it was part of this real free-for-all where employers were encouraged, a free market experiment, employers were encouraged to recruit from abroad, but there were never any conditions on them training and supporting the economy here at home. That's the difference.
So the difference is that you've got practical steps to tackle immigration, but in terms of your outlook, what's the difference between Labour and Reform UK and the way that you view immigration? What's the difference there?
Well, I think I've set out quite clearly, we've recognised through generations that issues around migration have made us the country we are. That will continue to be important in the future.
So you can see positives, whereas
of course,
Reform
yeah,
UK
well, but we've also have
stress
to
those
make sure
positives.
it's controlled and managed. And those are the ways, I think, this is something that I've been saying for about 10 years. This is things that I think are really important. Migration will always be important for this country, and we should always recognise the contribution it's made, but it has to be controlled and managed. And it just hasn't been controlled and managed for far too long. So these are changes we set out in our manifesto. Something like, for example, the immigration skills charge that we're increasing by a third. That will go into adult skills and training across the country so that we can boost the training and skills we need. So proper links between the immigration system and skills and training, which we've just not had before.
I want to ask you about the care sector, because that was obviously a big part of yesterday's reforms. Care homes tell me that they will have to close. Is it worth paying that price in order to get immigration down?
So we want to support the care sector to make sure that they're also supporting the workforce, and not always thinking, if there are shortages, that the answer is to have overseas recruitment rather than to make sure that you've got a fair pay agreement in place here at home. The social care visa only came in very recently, and yet the numbers shot right up, and we had nearly 40,000 people come to the UK who then found actually there weren't jobs for them, or that the jobs weren't of proper standards or weren't meeting the proper standards that the employers needed to meet. So that is a huge level of exploitation. We think we need to put an end to that exploitation. These are the kinds of jobs that we should be working to recruit, including from those who've come already on the care worker visa and who are already here, and also making sure that we're recruiting from UK residents as well.
But 131,000 vacancies, care homes say they just can't fill those vacancies with British workers. If it was that easy, they would have done it by now. They've had to go abroad, which is actually harder than hiring people from the UK. So they're just not confident they can do this.
Well, the care workers' visas have already reduced. We need to make sure that they don't go right back up again, and we do need the fair pay agreements in place. So what we need is in carer sector to work together, work with the Department of Health, and also we've set up these regional hubs where those care workers who got displaced can then also get jobs through those regional hubs, and care sectors, care homes can then take people on as well. But we can't get away from the fact that if you don't improve the quality of jobs here in the UK, if we don't make sure we've got the right skills and training, then we're not actually going to boost the productivity and the growth in the UK economy. All we're doing is just looking for short-term fixes by trying to increase the number of visas instead, and I just don't think that's the right approach.
Obviously, yesterday's reforms were about legal migration. This is a separate issue about small boat crossings that we wanted to show you. This is some footage that we filmed this morning in Dunkirk. I wonder what you make of this here, with a migrant crossing in front of police officers, and the French police don't appear to be doing an awful lot about it.
So there's a real problem with what's happening on the French beaches, and what you saw, that footage that we saw of people in the water and then the boats come and collect people. This is undermining our border security, and it's putting lives at risk. It's incredibly dangerous, but it's also, this kind of damaging impact on our border security as well. The French have had rules in place for a long time which say that they just don't intervene as soon as somebody is in the water at all.
These people, they were on the sand.
Yeah, even so, but particularly what happens is the people then go into the water and they don't intervene in the water, and they've had rules in place to do that. So we have been pressing for a long time for the French government to change their rules so that they can then start to intervene in the waters, in French waters, to prevent the boats crossing in the first place and to stop the boats. They have now agreed to do that, and that should be coming in over the next few months. We are obviously pressing them to bring that in as rapidly as possible, because we need to stop those boat crossings. It's just dangerous, and it undermines border security as well.
In terms of migrants being on the shore, on the sand, and French police not appearing to be intervening in some of these instances, is that good enough for you?
So one of the things that the French Interior Minister is also looking at is strengthening the law so that they can intervene in these circumstances as well.
And they're on the sand?
So that they can, yes, because to actually recognise they have a different legal framework to us, but he is looking at how you might also strengthen the law. to recognise that if somebody is unlawfully in France in the first place and the kinds of action that they can take in those circumstances. Their law is currently limited, and it's more limited than ours, and so that's why so much of the work we've been doing has been talking to France and talking to Germany about how they strengthen their laws in order to go after the criminal gangs who are organising these boats and organising this trade in people.
So just to be clear on this, is this good enough for you?
This is not what we want to see, of course not. What we want to see is stronger action, but I think that's what the French Interior Minister wants to see as well. And so that's why he is talking about strengthening the law, but crucially, those images you saw, this is the new way that the criminal gangs are operating. They call it taxi boats, where the boat arrives and picks people up in the water, and that's how they're then evading a lot of the French interventions. That's why we need this change in the French action in order to be able to go after the boats in French waters, to be able to stop boats crossing in the first place. And that's why this international cooperation is crucial to prevent this damaging trade in people.
Okay, Home Secretary, thank you very much.
Thank you.